After watching this video, you will know why top management's involvement is crucial to 5S success, a description of 5S and its benefits, the purpose of 5S, where 5S fits in a business management system, top management's responsibilities, how to make 5S a way of life, not just an event.
Hi, I'm Mike Micklewright. It is important to understand, right from the get-go, that this particular training segment is targeted for top management within any organization. 5S is simple to understand, but not easy to implement, and your involvement is absolutely necessary. I mention this up front because the topic of 5S is oftentimes thought to be an activity that the troops have to take part in, and that there is no effect on top management. Well, this is absolutely not true. And so I invite you to take a few minutes out of your busy schedule and listen to why your involvement is so important to successful 5S implementation, and then why 5S is so important to the long-term success of your organization. So why is top management's involvement so crucial to 5S success? In our last training session, I discussed the importance of root cause analysis in a lean environment, and I touched on why root cause analysis should be performed prior to the use of any lean tool, such as 5S. We need to do root cause analysis before the use of 5S because we need to understand if the root cause of a certain problem experienced was the result of not having an uncluttered, clean, well-organized, and standardized visual workplace. Let me explain. In an earlier example, I talked about an organization that had required 5S training and facilitation. They already had chosen the area that they wanted to focus in on. It was the shipping and receiving area. And they knew it was just a mess, it was unorganized, and a lot of problems were occurring because of that. They jumped to the conclusion that 5S would help them. We went through the 5S process, cleaned it up, organized, even got to the point of standardizing and sustaining. What happened, though, a few weeks later, was that the whole area reverted back to its original self. It was a mess. It was cluttered. It was unorganized. And we started to ask why. What was the reason? Well, it turned out that material handlers were encouraged to move stuff into the shipping area as quickly as possible, even if the shipping area was not ready for the product. And they were challenged to do so by their bosses. And so the whole problem was that more and more stuff was being forced into the shipping area, and it became more and more cluttered. 5S doesn't help that. The root cause of the problem had to do with an outside force. That had to be worked on. So 5S can work. It will work in many areas. But we first need to determine what is the root cause and to determine if 5S is the solution. In many cases it will be. In some cases it may not. Root cause analysis is critical to perform before embarking on any 5S venture, but it is also important to perform during and after a 5S event. And this is where you come into play as a senior manager. Root cause analysis is also important to perform after the 5S event to stop the bleeding or stop the reasons why things are so chaotic in the first place. System changes are required to help sustain the improvements and stop that bleeding. And senior management's involvement is extremely important. Let me explain further. When a Kaizen team performs the first S, which is sort, during the 5S event, they oftentimes discover too much inventory of stuff, whether it's parts or materials or supplies, documents, tools, or even machinery. This may be discovered in the area of interest or throughout the entire organization. Now, the team's job during the second S, which is set in order, is to put only what is necessary for a short period of time, let's say a week or so to start, in that area of where the value is actually being added to the product or the service. It's one thing to clear out the unnecessary inventory. It's another thing to ask why. Many times it got there in the first place. And this is where you come in. We need to ask ourselves, was that additional inventory there because there are incentives in place for purchasing or buyers to buy in large quantities to get volume discounts? And so we bring in all this stuff into our facility because it looks like we're saving money, when in reality we really aren't. It takes a lot of money and time for people to move the stuff around and store the material. So those types of policies need to be addressed. Or perhaps there's additional inventory because some individuals are encouraged to spend all of their budgeted money before the end of the fiscal year, or they'll lose it and risk losing all of the required budget for next year. Again, another policy that's in place by management that is encouraging people to buy things that they don't need. That's a bad policy, and it needs to be changed. Or perhaps we have additional inventory because there's so many occurrences of people hoarding parts or materials because they don't trust the system. I was working with a group in the food and beverage industry, and one of the guys raised his hand. He was a dishwasher, and he said, you know, it's very important for me to have my gloves, but I'm nervous because the gloves, they always run out. We don't have them. And I said, well, I bet then you're storing some. You're hoarding some yourself. He says, yes, I got 3 boxes that I hide. And I knew it, because that's what we all do. Now, that dishwasher might be hiding 3 boxes of gloves, and another one might be hiding another 2 or 3 boxes, and another one, and we just build up this inventory. It's scattered all over the place. Why? Because people don't trust the system. We have to work on that in order to reduce the inventory, which is waste. Now, these are all system problems, and they have to be dealt with appropriately to determine the root cause and eliminate the root causes. It will require your involvement to change the system and change the policies. Otherwise, the time and the effort that we put into any 5S event will be wasted because sustaining the improvements will be difficult at best, since the root causes to some of those reasons as to why the area became so chaotic will still be present. As a member of top management, once again, your involvement is crucial to the success of 5S implementation. So what is 5S and what are its benefits? Well, first of all, 5S comes from 5 Japanese words that I'll translate into English for you in order. The first one.